Level 1. The kid who takes things apart. You're 7 years old, and the bicycle chain has come off again, which for most kids on the block means leaving it on the porch until a parent fixes it. You fix it yourself. Not because anyone showed you how, but because the problem is right there in front of you and the solution is visible if you look at it long enough. And looking at problems until they give up their solution is a thing your brain does naturally and completely. Your father notices. He lets you hand him tools while he works on a family car in the driveway on Saturday mornings. And the handing becomes watching, and the watching becomes asking. And the asking becomes him letting you loosen a bolt yourself, just one, under his hand. And the feeling of that bolt giving way under your effort is one of the most satisfying things you have ever experienced. You are 7 years old, and you have already found the thing. You don't know that yet. You just know you want to be in the driveway every Saturday. You want the tools in your hand. You want the problem in front of you. The grease under your fingernails doesn't bother you at all, which your mother finds incomprehensible and which tells you something important about yourself that will take years to fully articulate. Level 2, the garage kid. 11, and you've been in and out of neighbor's garage every weekend for 2 years because Mr. Rodriguez down the street rebuilds old cars as a hobby, and he figured out early that you were the kind of kid who asks good questions and then actually listens to the answers. He lets you help. Real help, not pretend help. You're not handing wrenches anymore. You're diagnosing. He'll describe a sound an engine is making and ask you what you think it is before he tells you. And sometimes you're wrong. And the explanation of why you're wrong teaches you more than being right would have. You learn what a carburetor does by taking one apart and putting it back together. You learn the difference between a compression problem and a fuel problem by elimination, by ruling things out systematically until only the truth remains. This is not how they teach things in school, which is part of why school feels slow and the garage feels fast. You are 11 years old, and you can already hear an engine and tell the difference between a knock and a tick, which is a skill most adults will never develop. Level 3, the high school tech student. 14, and your school has an automotive program, which to most of your classmates is a backup plan, and to you is the only class that feels like the real thing. The instructor is a former dealership master tech who got tired of flat rate pressure and now teaches because he wanted to pass something on. He sees you in the first week and adjusts accordingly, which means he stops explaining things you already know and starts giving you problems that are slightly above where you are. You stay after class, not because he asks you to, because there's a transmission on a stand that nobody has figured out yet, and you want to be the one who figures it out. You do figure it out. A cracked case that was leaking away that only showed up under specific load conditions. The kind of thing that gets misdiagnosed as something expensive because the obvious thing isn't the actual thing. Your instructor tells you that you have the diagnostic mind, which he says is rarer than the technical skill and harder to teach. You hold on to that. It means something different from your parents saying it. Level 4, the apprentice. 18, and you're working at a local shop 3 days a week while finishing your certification program, which means you're doing real work on real customer vehicles under the supervision of a journeyman tech named Carl, who has been doing this for 22 years and has the hands to prove it. Carl does not give compliments. Carl gives corrections, specific and immediate, and the correction is a compliment if you understand this environment. Oil changes and tire rotations are the entry point, which you know and accept, because everyone starts at the bottom of the ladder, and the view from the bottom is where you learn what the ladder is actually made of. By month 4, Carl lets you do your first brake job unsupervised. By month 8, you're diagnosing electrical faults that the senior tech handed off, because chasing electrical gremlins requires a patience that not everyone has. You have it. You stay with the problem until it breaks. The customers whose cars you fix don't know your name. The shop owner does. That's the right order. Level 5, the journeyman. 23, and you have your certifications. A full set of your own tools that cost more than some people's cars. And a reputation inside the shop as a tech who gets handed the ones nobody else wants. The ones nobody else wants are the ones that made you. The intermittent fault that only happens on cold starts. The noise that disappears when the car is on a lift. The electrical issue that 3 other shops told the customer was unfixable. You fix them. Not always quickly, not always cleanly, but you fix them because walking away from an unsolved problem is not something your brain will allow. The flat rate system is working in your favor now because your diagnostic speed has gotten to the point where you're consistently beating the book time, which means your hourly yield is higher than it looks on paper. You understand the business side of the shop now in a way you couldn't at 18. You understand that the shop lives and dies on efficiency and reputation, and that both of those things run through the techs, and specifically through the tech who the service advisor calls when the customer is already frustrated and the car has been there 3 days. Level 6, the specialist. 28, and you've narrowed your focus in the way that serious craftsmen eventually do. European vehicles or diesel or performance applications or electrical systems. And the narrowing hasn't limited your value. It has multiplied it. Customers drive 2 hours to your shop because you are the person who can work on the thing they have. The dealership has called you twice. You've declined twice because the flat rate pressure a high volume dealership would turn the thing you love into a thing you survive. And you've watched that happen to enough good techs that you know the difference between working fast and working well. And you are not willing to sacrifice the second for first. Your toolbox is a statement. Anyone who works in this industry can read a toolbox the way you read an engine, and yours says everything it needs to say. Level 7, the Master Tech. 34, and every certification has your name on it. Customers request you by name. The service writer routes the complicated ones to your bay automatically without asking anymore. You've trained 3 apprentices who are now competent journeymen working in shops around the city, and something about that carries a weight you weren't expecting. The first time one of them calls you for advice on a diagnosis, and you talk them through over the phone, and they call back 20 minutes later to tell you, it was exactly what you said. You feel something that is different from solving the problem yourself. It's better, actually. You're not just good at the work now. You're making the work better by being in it. The shop treats you accordingly. The bay you work in has the best equipment. Your time is protected from the administrative nonsense that eats into everyone else's productivity. You are the thing that keeps the place's reputation attached to its name. Level 8, the shop owner. 41, and you've opened your own place. 6 bays for full-time techs, a service writer who has been with you since day one, and your name on the sign outside, which still surprises you when you pull into the parking lot in the morning. Everything you spent 20 years learning about fixing things you're now applying to a business, which is its own kind of machine with its own kind of faults that need diagnosing. Payroll and part suppliers and customer relationships, and insurance that costs more than you thought possible. The business problems are less satisfying than mechanical ones, but you solve them the same way, systematically, by ruling out what they're not until you find what they are. The bay you work in is Bay 1, closest to your office, because you're still a tech who runs a business, and not a businessman who used to be a tech, and that distinction is the entire philosophy of the shop. Customers feel it. Good techs feel it. The best ones come to work for you. Level 9, the institution. 55 years old, and the shop has been in the same location for 14 years and has a waiting list for new customers, which is a kind of problem you are grateful to have. Your hands are marked by 4 decades of work in a way that tells a story without any words. The young tech in Bay 3 is 20 years old and reminds you completely of yourself at that age, the questions, the staying late, the way his face looks when he solves something difficult, that specific expression of private satisfaction that this work produces in the people built for it. You hand him the complicated one on purpose. You let him work through it. You correct him when he needs correcting in the same direct way Carl corrected you 37 years ago. Because that is the gift, and you know it now even if he doesn't yet. You retire the bay eventually, not the business. You stay because the business is people, and the people need someone who remembers what this work is supposed to feel like before the pressure to be fast replaced the discipline to be right. Somewhere right now, a 7-year-old is putting a bicycle chain back on in the driveway. Nobody showed them how. They figured it out by looking at it long enough. Their hands are already dirty, and they don't mind at all. They have no idea that this moment, this small, greasy Saturday morning problem solved alone, is the very beginning of everything.